Welcome to my Boulevard. All right, we've been talking about safe spaces, been sharing your journey in a lot of different ways. I appreciate your vulnerability in so many different ways. I hope this is helpful for you guys and it's helpful for me. And just as someone who oftentimes I'm a professional Christian, right? I'm paid for my morality in some way, which is a very dangerous and scary place to be. And I hate that for so many of believers and especially professional believers, because for so many of us, people like me who are paid for their morality, as soon as I confess, if I confess something like this, I'm going to lose my job.
Yeah.
And that's different than for people who work in jobs that their morality is not directly tied to their profession. And so this is an important conversation, and this is why it's important to find safe spaces to be able to communicate and to share. And even if losing your job, it's worse losing your job than losing your life. But we want to create some spaces so that people can walk in freedom.
Yeah.
Right. And not just maintain the functionality that so many have. And we talked about in previous episodes. But right now we want to talk a little bit about intimacy versus intensity.
Yeah.
And so just kind of share what we consider to be the difference between intimacy and intensity.
So I've been really looking forward to this one, mainly because I get to talk about my current partner and how he's used her in my life to show me what true intimacy is with another person. So just a quick recap. I'm David. I'm in recovery from love and sex addiction. I used love and sex addiction and the intensity that goes with them to try to fill the validation void that I had as a little boy, teenager, young man, and into my 20s and 30s. And now 6 years on the recovery road, having relapsed twice, and being from the last relapse I had, a little over 20 months in full recovery. It's intensity is how much can I get, how often can I get it, and to what extent can I get it. Okay. That's how I define intensity in my own journey. Yep. And so, which was how much validation could I get? That released how much dopamine I could get. That released how good I felt about myself. And then I could go out and function. And there were times towards the end of my addiction back in 2017 that I would be like, okay, I need to have sex with this person that I'm paying to have sex with. I need to have sex with this person who I'm paying to have sex with. And in between, I'm going to go to meetings because it was like I had dopamine released. I felt good about myself, and then I could go knock it out in a meeting. You see what I mean? Or win that business. And so, that was all based on intensity. And I tend to be a very revved person anyway. I get really excited. I have tons of joy. I love to have fun. And those are all great things. My current partner, when I first met her, it was back in October of 21. And so this is where God began. I had been on a journey, and at that point had been sober 3 years, or 2 years, sorry, at that point, because I relapsed in 19. So 2 years, and was living a congruent life for the most part, was doing... I would have relationships that I would have sex in, and so it was a little bit of me trying to understand where does that fit in my life, and I want to have healthy intimacy. Well, what does that look like? You know what I mean? And that kind of thing. And but going to my 12-step meetings, doing therapy, doing journaling, doing all the things that helped me live a very regulated life. But when I met my current partner, she's like, our symbol between us is a turtle. Because if I'm an F1 car, she's just like, we're going to slow it way down. But what happened was I've actually learned that intimacy isn't just sexual intimacy. Intimacy is something where you feel connected with a human being. And I'm speaking for myself, where I feel deeply connected to this person. See, when I was in acting out, it was like, what's the craziest, most fun way I can have sex? And what's the craziest, most fun thing I can do? And it's like everything had to be more intense, more intense. And even when I was exploring what is healthy sexuality with people I was dating, it was still kind of the same thing, Whereas a true intimate relationship, and then with the current partner that I have is based on, man, I just want to sit here on the couch and hear how your day was.
Yeah.
I just want to be in your presence. I just want to hear what's going on with your heart. Tell me how you feel. Let me walk through this with you. All the things that I learned in intensive inpatient and intensive outpatient of, we're going to slow way down.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Can you sit in the discomfort? You know, what does it mean to process with a partner? And all these things, my current partner, God has used her to show me what this deep, intimate relationship looks like. That's not anything on the sexual and like intensity side.
But in slowing down, and when you begin to slow down, some people don't slow down because you start learning a lot of things about yourself that you do not.
Yeah, of course.
So how, you know, when a lot of times we talk about confession and repentance, right? And it will not define confession as a willingness to tell the truth about what's going on inside, right? And then, but when you start telling the truth about what's going on inside, you start thinking about it from the vantage point of repentance and changing the way you see yourself and changing the way you see God, because that slowing down pace, that you think, oh, I'm jacked up, you know, I'm messed up. So when you started kind of having to slow down from the intensity to intimacy, and you started learning more about your cravings and your desires and going wild and going crazy, how did you handle that period?
Yeah, because the slowdown didn't just happen 2 years ago with my current partner. The slowdown really started happening in 19.
Yeah.
When I hit that wall and relapsed hard in 19 and I went to intensive outpatient, I was 100+ days of understanding what it means to slow down. You're on a regiment there, you're understanding slow down. And so how I've processed it, Dhati, is journaling, a lot of journaling.
Yep.
Check-ins with my friends, check-in with the people that are in my circle, 12-step group, and understanding. I was actually in an empathetic workshop last weekend, but it's like, if we're going to understand the light about ourselves, we have to realize every person has a dark. And until we face that dark and understand what is it about me that's dark, where do I screw up when I screw up? When you slow down, or when I slowed down and understood that, that was a way for me to understand better of who I was. And then it led into what I wanted. I knew it was like, okay, this is what I want for my life. I'm going to do congruent actions to do this. And let me say this for the people listening about relationships, because I feel like we live, even outside of addiction, in a society where jump on Tinder, jump on Hinge, don't like this, don't like this, don't like this, don't like this. And it's just like constant constant intensity. It's like, I went out with this person one time, they didn't have this one thing, I'm going to go to a next person.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is so amazing about how God has brought the current person into my life, because they have helped me see that relationships aren't built on some F1 track going 200 kilometers or 250 kilometers at a time. It's built on the little day-to-day things. And then I've parlayed that into my friendships and into my business relationships. And the slower I go at times, almost the better of a person that I am.
Good. And that patience. It's a patient. Yeah. No, this is really good. You know, and I appreciate, you know, you sharing. I appreciate this journey. We have more that we're gonna be sharing, but you know, we just really wanted to give these in some nice bite-sized nuggets as we process through something that is like many people are struggling with. And I like to talk about the intensity versus true connectivity, intimacy, right? And sometimes that intimacy causes us to slow down. Right, and when we slow down, we got to face some of the darkness in our own hearts, and I think that's really really critical, because again, part of the reason why some of us are addicted is because we're numbing out, and some of our numbing out is keeping an intensified life.
Right. If I actually slow down, I'm actually going to have to take on the weight of
the very thing I'm trying to numb out of,
and I'm scared to death of what that's going to feel like.
That's spot on. We appreciate you, man.
Yeah.